A former UF football player facing felony child porn charges is accepting a plea deal with far lower charges.
Many have accused the state attorney's office of letting him off easy. TV 20's Taylor Bird tells us why they decided to offer the deal.
Jalen Kitna originally faced 2 counts of distribution of child porn and 3 counts of possession. Chief Investigator Derry Lloyd says they used a legal and medical standard to determine the severity of the images. Based on that standard, the 3 images were determined to be post-pubescent and not necessarily illegal. The 4th image they determined had no sexual context and no criminal violation. However, in the police report, it described Kitna's Discord account sharing an image of a prepubescent girl engaging in sexual contact with an adult. Lloyd says the Kitna case is not as severe as other child porn cases.
In the case of somebody storing images of, you have 70, 80, 90 images and pictures. This wasn't anything like that. That's why the investigation was really important, because you have out of every device. I mean, imagine folks have their cell phone, their computers, and they have tons of pictures.
A psychosexual examination of Kitna found nothing abnormal. Kitna did tell investigators before his arrest that he did struggle with controlling his sexual interest.
Only 4 images, 3 of which were called, they were already standard, they were already out there in the web, right? It's already there. And then the 4th is something that you can't even come up with a reasonable person will come up with, hey, this is not a violation of anything, it's just an image.
Kitna pled no contest to 2 counts of disorderly conduct, and those are second-degree misdemeanors. He would be placed on 6 months probation for each count, but won't have to register as a sex offender.
Kitna has been banned from UF's campus until November of 2025. In Gainesville, Taylor Bird, TV 20 News.